Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. In 1969, the United States Mint pressed millions of Roosevelt dimes, each a small yet essential part of daily commerce. At first glance, they were no different from those produced in the years before or after, a copper-nickel-clad coin bearing Franklin D. Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and the familiar torch, oak branch, and olive branch on the reverse. By then, Americans were already accustomed to the post-1965 clad coinage, a change forced upon the mint after the silver crisis that stripped coins of their intrinsic silver value. The world was shifting politically, socially, and economically, yet the dime remained a constant presence in pockets and registers. It seemed ordinary, routine, until whispers began to surface about something strange hidden among these unassuming coins. The Philadelphia and Denver mints worked tirelessly through that year, stamping out vast quantities to meet circulation demands. Quality control was strict, yet under the relentless pressure of mass production, anomalies sometimes escaped. Errors were not new to collectors, but what occurred in 1969 would prove more compelling than most. For years, few paid attention, and the dimes circulated unnoticed in coffee shops, grocery stores, and bus fare boxes. Their subtle peculiarity remained buried, ignored by casual hands. Only the meticulous eyes of numismatists could someday reveal what was hiding in plain sight. It was not until one collector, sifting through rolls purchased from a local bank, noticed something that felt off. At first, it was nothing more than a hunch. Something about the coin's lettering seemed unnatural. The word Liberty appeared strangely doubled, not quite like the usual wear and tear but as though the die itself had whispered the word twice in hesitation. He set the coin aside, uncertain whether fatigue was playing tricks on his vision. Under magnification, however, the truth became undeniable. Each letter, each number, bore the distinct shadow of doubling, bold and unmistakable. His hands trembled as he realized what he was looking at, a double die error, one of the most coveted varieties in U.S. coinage. The significance of such an error struck him with a quiet force. This was no common strike-through, no slight misalignment of dies that might amuse but not astound. A double die was something far rarer, born not of a fleeting mistake but of the very process by which dies themselves were prepared. To discover it on a dime from 1969 meant the possibility of a treasure in disguise. Yet doubt lingered. Was this real? Could it be one of those pieces collectors spoke about in hushed tones, or just an illusion created by wear? The uncertainty only deepened the suspense that he compared the dime against others in his collection, side by side under the harsh glare of a lamp. No other coin showed such pronounced doubling. The more he examined it, the more he became convinced. This was not an accident of the eye. It was tangible, deliberate in its mistake. He began to research, scouring books, newsletters, and numismatic reports. Gradually, fragments of information aligned. There had been confirmed cases of a 1969 double die cent, one of the most famous Lincoln cents ever discovered, but almost nothing mentioned the dime. Could he have stumbled upon an equally mysterious anomaly on the 10-cent piece? The weeks that followed were a test of patience. He reached out to other collectors, sharing cautious photographs, careful not to disclose too much. Opinions varied, some dismissed it, others leaned forward with intrigue. Slowly, word began to spread, and curiosity swelled around the dime. If authenticated, it could become one of the rarest finds in modern numismatics. The collector's once quiet evenings were now consumed with anxious waiting. The simple act of turning that coin over in his fingers filled him with a mix of dread and exhilaration. This dime was no longer a mere coin. It had transformed into a secret heavy with potential. Its value was not immediate. In the beginning, even confirmed error coins often struggled to capture attention. Dealers were cautious, the market skeptical. Some offered small sums, treating it as a curiosity rather than a treasure. Yet as whispers turned into discussions, and discussions into recognition, the coin's stature grew. Articles were penned, reports circulated, and suddenly the 1969 dime error became a subject of fascination. Each auction that presented one fueled the suspense further, the prices edging upward, testing the boundaries of expectation. From a humble 10 cents, it crept into hundreds, then thousands, and each time the gavel fell higher, collectors were left to wonder just how far this journey could go. But value in numismatics is never a straight path. Fluctuations haunted the coin's trajectory. One year, demand surged as new collectors rushed into the market, bidding aggressively. The next, interest cooled, the prices plateauing or even dipping. The unpredictability mirrored the coin's very nature, born of error, defined by anomaly, and resistant to the ordinary rules of commerce. For those who held one, the thrill was not just in its potential worth but in the story it carried, a story of imperfection preserved in metal. The physical characteristics of the error only deepened the fascination. On genuine examples, the doubling leapt out most strikingly on the inscriptions, especially in the motto, "In God We Trust." The letters carried shadows so distinct that they seemed to dance under the light, a ghostly echo stamped alongside the original design. Even the date, 1969, bore evidence of the doubling, its numerals thickened and distorted, as though caught between two realities. For casual eyes, it might appear as damage; for the trained, it was artistry by accident. Each detail testified to the uniqueness of the error, setting it apart from the sea of ordinary dimes. What startled collectors most, however, was an unexpected revelation that emerged years later. Not all examples of the 1969 dime error looked identical. Variations existed, some with stronger doubling, some with more subtle distortions, suggesting that multiple dies may have been affected. This twist complicated the narrative. Was the error more widespread than originally thought? Were there still undiscovered pieces waiting in forgotten rolls, lying quietly in jars of change? The possibility kept collectors awake at night, fueling a treasure hunt mentality that made every 1969 dime a subject of scrutiny. The twist extended beyond a physical coin. Rumors began to circulate of a small batch of coins confiscated by authorities in the early 1970s, mistaken for counterfeits because the doubling appeared too dramatic. Though details remained murky, the story lent an air of mystery, adding to the coin's legend. If true, how many pieces were lost, melted down before their rarity could be recognized? Such speculation only amplified the scarcity of surviving examples, driving the stakes higher for those few in private hands. As the decades rolled on, the 1969 dime transitioned from curiosity to legend. Collectors who once dismissed it now pursued it with fervor. Auction houses highlighted it in glossy catalogs, their descriptions laced with reverence. Each public sale became an event, drawing bidders across the country, their paddles raised with anticipation. The coin's value no longer hinged solely on rarity, it was now intertwined with narrative, history, and myth. Its journey from circulation to spotlight mirrored the unpredictability of fortune itself, how something so small, so overlooked, could ascend to extraordinary significance. Even now, the story feels unfinished. The possibility of undiscovered examples lingers, haunting every collector who pores over dime rolls with magnification and hope. The thought that another could surface tomorrow keeps the excitement alive. This uncertainty, this perpetual suspense, is perhaps the greatest treasure the 1969 dime offers, not only in its physical form but in the restless anticipation it leaves behind. And so, what began as a routine issue of coins during a tumultuous year became a riddle etched in metal. A dime that should have been ordinary instead carried the weight of imperfection, a doubling of its design that transformed its destiny. From the anxious hands of a single collector to the grand stages of auction houses, it has lived many lives, each more compelling than the last. Its true worth remains elusive, shifting with markets and moods, but its impact is undeniable. In its doubled letters and distorted numerals lies the enduring reminder that even the smallest error can reshape history, one coin at a time. The year 2004 was not remarkable for coinage in the United States at first glance. The Roosevelt Dime, a design that had graced the 10-cent piece since 1946, rolled steadily from the presses of the Philadelphia Mint, fulfilling its everyday role in the nation's commerce. Tens of millions of coins poured out, indistinguishable from one another, destined for pockets, vending machines, and grocery counters. Yet within this sea of ordinary circulation pieces, a strange anomaly began to surface, so subtle at first that even the mint workers themselves overlooked it. Coins born of the same machinery carried a flaw, an imperfection that seemed almost intentional, as though the metal itself resisted conformity. Collectors always watched the flow of coinage closely, and it was not long before whispers emerged of something unusual hidden in the 2004 Philadelphia mintage. Some dimes displayed curious features on their surfaces, faint ghost-like impressions that didn't belong. A careful eye noticed doubling along the lettering, subtle shadows where none should be. Others bore slight distortions in their rims, a fragile echo of misalignment. The Roosevelt portrait, usually sharp, sometimes appeared softened, as though worn before its time. At first, these were dismissed as common strikes, nothing more than routine mishaps in a mint that produced coins by the millions each day. But the more often they appeared in collections, the harder it became to deny that something stranger was at work. For one collector, the story began in the simplest way. Sifting through a pile of pocket change late at night, he noticed the year, 2004, and the tiny mint mark, P, beneath Roosevelt's neck. Ordinary enough, but when light struck the coin at an angle, a doubling in the phrase "In God We Trust" caught his attention. He rubbed his thumb across it, expecting the illusion to fade, yet the shadowed letters remained. His pulse quickened. He fetched a magnifier, examining the edges of the motto, tracing each line where the engraving seemed to have fractured. The more he looked, the more convinced he became that this was no trick of the eye. He had stumbled upon something rare. The emotional weight of that discovery cannot be overstated. For a collector, the difference between a coin worth 10 cents and a coin worth hundreds, or even thousands, rests in details invisible to the casual spender. Each error is a clue, a window into the inner workings of the mint, a frozen moment where machinery faltered and perfection slipped. Holding that dime, the collector felt a surge of connection to history, as though he had rescued a secret that the mint itself never intended to reveal. He placed it carefully into a flip, marked it with the date, and began searching through more rolls, eager to see if lightning might strike again. The first confirmed examples began to circulate within numismatic communities, slowly building intrigue. Online forums lit up with photographs, magnified images showing doubled lettering, off-center strikes, and anomalies in Roosevelt's profile. Prices began modestly, $15 here, $30 there. But speculation grew. Was this error limited to a handful of dies, or had thousands of flawed coins slipped into circulation unnoticed? Collectors debated feverishly, some claiming abundance would diminish value, others insisting scarcity would ensure greatness. As months passed, auction houses began listing 2004 P dimes with authenticated errors. The value crept upward. A piece once pocket change became a $50 curiosity, then a $150 gem. Rumors of even sharper double dies fueled competition, and bidding wars erupted. Those who had once dismissed the coins as trivial now regretted not paying closer attention to their change. And all the while, the true scope of the error remained uncertain. What set this dime apart was not merely the doubling but the manner in which it presented itself. Unlike earlier famous double dies, like the 1955 Lincoln cent or the 1972 cent, the 2004 P dime's doubling could be faint, almost spectral, as though the design whispered its flaw rather than shouted it. Some examples bore strong, dramatic shifts in lettering, while others seemed half-formed, partial impressions caught between states. This inconsistency puzzled collectors. How could coins from the same year and mint show such a range of anomalies? The answer hinted at a deeper twist. Specialists studying the error noted that not all examples were true double dies. Some were die deterioration doubling, a result of worn equipment rather than a hubbing mistake. Others were machine doubling, where vibration during striking produced false shadows. And yet, a handful, just enough to tantalize, were confirmed genuine double dies, with crisp, deliberate separation in design elements. This mixture blurred the boundaries between ordinary flaws and extraordinary rarities. A collector could sift through hundreds of dimes, finding dozens of misleading distortions, before uncovering one that held real, lasting value. The 2004 P dime became both treasure and trap, rewarding the patient but frustrating the careless. The value evolution mirrored this tension. Early sellers profited quickly, riding the wave of speculation, while later buyers demanded authentication before bidding high. Certified examples, encapsulated by grading services, carried premiums many times higher than uncertified pieces. The market fluctuated like a pendulum, prices soaring when a strong double die appeared at auction, then settling back as weaker examples diluted excitement. Collectors chasing the coin learned patience, knowing that the true gems remained few and hidden among the masses. The unique twist came not from the error alone, but from its context. In 2004, the United States Mint was deep into its state quarters program, which drew national attention. Millions of Americans searched their change for commemorative quarters, often ignoring dimes, nickels, and cents. It was within this climate of distraction that the flawed dimes slipped quietly into circulation. While eyes focused on the new quarters, errors bloomed unnoticed in the Roosevelt series, escaping scrutiny until collectors grew curious years later. This oversight amplified the coin's mystique. It was a hidden rarity, overshadowed by the more glamorous releases of its time, discovered only by those who looked beyond the obvious. Some collectors even speculated that the mint's focus on high-volume quarter production contributed indirectly to the dime errors. Strains on machinery, shifts in quality control, and the need to maintain output may have allowed flawed dies to run longer than they should have. If true, the 2004 P-Dime tells not only its own story but also reflects the broader pressures on the mint during a historic coinage program. By the time the numismatic community fully recognized its significance, the coin had transformed from overlooked mistake to cultural artifact. Collectors spoke of it in the same breath as earlier error legends, though with a sense of caution. It was not as dramatic as the 1955 cent or as bold as the 1937 three-legged buffalo nickel, but its allure lay in its subtlety. The coin asked its finder to look twice, to pay attention where others did not. Its rarity lay not only in numbers but in perception, and still, surprises continued. Years after the first discoveries, new varieties of the 2004 P-Dime surfaced. Misaligned dies that produced crescent-shaped rims, coins missing partial cladding that exposed copper layers beneath, and even examples with off-metal planchets that slipped through undetected. Each new find reignited interest, proving that the story of this dime was not finished but evolving. The coin became a lesson in vigilance. No matter how familiar a design might seem, the potential for discovery always remained. The collector who first stumbled upon the doubling in his pocket change followed the journey with quiet pride. That single coin, once nearly spent on a cup of coffee, had grown into a centerpiece of his collection. Its value was not merely monetary but emotional, a reminder that history hides in plain sight, waiting for those who care to notice. Watching prices rise and fall, he realized that true satisfaction lay not in the market but in the moment of recognition, the thrill of discovery that no auction could replicate. The 2004 P-Dime remains one of those curious intersections where chance, history, and human attention converge. Born in a year overshadowed by larger coinage programs, marred by errors both trivial and profound, it carved out a legacy through persistence. Its value today reflects not only scarcity but the narrative woven around it, a narrative of oversight, rediscovery, and fascination. For those who hold one, the dime is more than a sliver of metal. It is a story in miniature, a whisper from the mint that mistakes, once hidden, can become treasures when given the right eyes to see them.